You didn't pick your first bike. It picked you. And your brain has been lying to you about that ever since. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you the exact moment that bike became part of who you are. And by the end, you're going to look at whatever you ride right now and ask yourself, how much of this was really my choice? Picture a green 2008 Kawasaki Ninja 250. Nothing special. Not fast, not rare. It's one of the most common first bikes on Earth. The bike dealerships sold to hundreds of thousands of 16-year-olds. And yet, years later, grown adults who now own bikes 10 times more expensive still talk about that one green plastic fairing like it was a person. Not the specs, not the speed. The color. The exact sound it made the first time it started. That doesn't make sense on paper. A Ninja 250 is a beginner bike, nothing more. So something else was happening in that driveway. Something that had almost nothing to do with the bike itself. Back in the 1930s, a scientist named Konrad Lorenz was watching baby geese. He noticed something strange. A few hours after hatching, a baby goose locks onto the first big moving thing it sees and follows it everywhere. Usually that's its mother. But Lorenz stepped in front of the goslings himself. And they followed him instead, in a line, across an open field, like he was their mother. He called this imprinting. It happens once. It happens fast. And it sticks for life. Here's the part most people never tell you. This isn't just a cute animal story. Scientists who study teenagers think your brain runs almost the exact same program. Not with a mother goose. With a bike, sitting in the sun on a dealership floor, in front of a 14 to 21-year-old brain that's ready to lock onto something and call it me. That age matters. 14, 16, 21. That's not random. Scientists say this is the exact age when your brain is building your sense of who you are. Not just what you like, who you are. So that Ninja 250 wasn't just competing with other bikes. It was competing to become the first real proof of who that kid was turning into. Someone different from his parents, different from who he used to be. And once something becomes part of who you are, your brain stops treating it like an object. In 1988, a researcher named Russell Belk studied this. He found that the things you own don't just belong to you. In your brain, they become you. Your brain stores them right next to your own memories, your own body, your own sense of self. Here's the twist most videos about this never mention. That 16-year-old didn't pick the Ninja 250 over other bikes because of horsepower or resale value. He didn't understand any of those numbers yet. What he actually reacted to was simple. The color, the shape, the sound, the way the headlight looked. His brain made the choice in under 1 second. Then it spent years afterward making up good reasons for a decision it had already made. A scientist named Daniel Kahneman won a Nobel Prize for proving this happens with almost every choice we make. Your brain has two systems. One is slow and careful. The other is fast and emotional. The fast one almost always wins first. The slow one just shows up later to write an explanation that makes the fast choice sound smart. You didn't pick your first bike with the slow, careful system. You picked it in a flash with the fast one. Everything you've said about it since then has just been your brain explaining a decision after it was already made. And that explains something even stranger. That same grown man can remember exactly how the throttle felt on a bike he rode once at 16. But he can't remember what he had for lunch 3 days ago. Your brain doesn't protect a memory that clearly, for that long, by accident. It protects it because it decided that moment mattered more than an ordinary memory. It filed it under, "This is part of who I am," not, "This is just something that happened." Here's why this hits harder with a first bike than with almost anything else you'll ever own. A car, for most teenagers, gets picked by a parent, paid for by a parent, insured by a parent. A phone just gets handed down, no big deal. But a first bike, for a lot of riders, is different. It's often the first big thing you buy with your own money. Sometimes you buy it even when your parents told you not to. That struggle matters. Scientists have found that things you had to fight for stick with you more than things people just handed you. You didn't just get that Ninja 250. You probably fought for it. And your brain rewards things you fought for by holding onto them harder and longer. So if that first bike wasn't really your choice, what was it? It was a mirror. It showed that kid an identity he hadn't finished building yet and let him borrow it early. The leather jacket he couldn't really afford yet. The confidence he didn't really feel yet. The bike gave him a costume for the person he was still becoming. And over time, he grew into that costume until it stopped feeling borrowed and started feeling like his own skin. Now picture a different version of him. Same bike, same age, same driveway. But this time, he feels nothing when the engine starts. No click, no connection, just a machine. That version sells the bike within a year and never rides again. Same bike, same person. The only difference is whether a few seconds, at exactly the right moment, made that green fairing feel like part of him. And here's the uncomfortable part. The companies that make these bikes know this happens. But maybe not the way you think. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's just how the business works. Motorcycle companies spend huge amounts of money targeting riders between 14 and 21 years old. Why? Because their own sales data shows something simple. A rider who buys a brand young is far more likely to buy that same brand again. And again for the rest of his life. It's not because the 10th bike from that brand is actually better than every other bike on the market. It's because way back at the first purchase, something locked in. And every purchase after that has just been the brain defending a choice it made before it even knew how to make good choices. That's why a diehard fan of one brand, one color, one shape, can't really explain why he stayed loyal for 20 years. He'll just say, it felt right. That feeling isn't nostalgia. It's the same program from the baby geese still running, just wearing a leather jacket now instead of feathers. Here's the part that should really bother you. If your first bike helped decide who you became, then a small accident of timing and luck quietly shaped years of your life. A different bike in stock that week. A friend's older brother selling his bike 2 weeks early. A color you happened to see first instead of second. Change any one of those small things, and you'd be a slightly different rider today, loyal to a different brand, chasing a different bike. You can still watch this happen today. Go watch a teenager standing in front of a row of bikes at a dealership. Watch how fast his eyes lock onto one, before he's even read a single spec sheet. That's the exact moment happening, live, and neither the kid nor his parents standing next to him have any idea it's happening. So next time someone asks why you ride what you ride, you can give them the easy answer. You like the sound. You like the look. You like the feel. That's true. But now you know the real answer too. You didn't pick your first bike the way you pick a phone. You bonded to it the same way a baby goose bonds to the first thing it sees move. Your slow brain just spent years afterward writing a good explanation for something your fast brain already decided. Tonight, look at whatever you're actually riding right now. Ask yourself honestly. Did you calmly choose this bike, or are you still, somewhere in the back of your mind, chasing the memory of a green plastic fairing that chose you first? And if that bothered you, wait until you hear how far one company went to make that exact moment happen on purpose.